All right, the recording is in progress.
Okay,
I will pull that agenda back up.
thank you.
There we go.
All right, it is 5:02 and I'm calling to order the regular board meeting on November 20th, 2014 of the Northpoint Charter School. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, this is Deborah Burns. Eileen Johnson,
Here.
Anthony Padilla, not here
He'll
yet.
be late.
Deborah James, Deborah Burns here. Deborah Jensen
Here.
Great.
And then for record purposes, you have Sammy's last name. Maria, what was your last name again?
I have it.
You
I
do,
have it. Don't
okay.
worry, Eileen.
Okay, and do you have Elisa's?
I do. Well,
Okay.
Let's see. Yes, Hodges.
Okay. Yes, oh yeah, that's right. Okay. If everybody would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, did anyone have any proposed changes to the agenda? No, nothing from Debbie?
Nope.
Deborah, did you want to change anything?
No, I think everything has an item that needs to be. Is there an item? I think there's an item for council members.
Yes.
Yeah.
8B. Or
8B.
9.
No,
8B. Okay, good. All right. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as is?
This is Deborah Jensen. I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
and this is Mrs. Burns. I will second the motion. Eileen Johnson,
Aye.
Deborah Burns, aye. Mrs. Jensen,
Aye.
All right, motion passed. Public comment. I think no other
We
members
didn't
of
have
the
anyone register for public comment.
Okay, all right, great. Did anyone have any changes they wanted to make to the minutes or the finance piece? The finance packet? No? Okay. Can I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
This is Deborah Jensen. I'll make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
And I think you have to list the bars, right?
Okay.
I don't
All
believe
right.
you do.
not
since
in
they're
the
all
consent,
consent.
not in the consent agenda.
Okay, great. All right. So we just need a second and a roll call or a.
So this is Deborah Burns. I second the motion to approve the consent agenda. Eileen Johnson,
Aye.
Deborah Burns, aye. Deborah Jensen,
Aye.
great.
All right, great. So nothing on number 5. Deborah, do you want to talk about the finance committee?
Sure. The finance committee met with Lisa and our business manager at 4:15 today, and we went through the finance packet. We discussed a few of the items like the percentage of our budget that's going to direct instruction versus other expenses, which are largely facilities related, and what the target is, which is supposed to be closer to 65%. It's in the 47, range. But our business manager explained that charter schools have so many expenses, like our lease payment over and above our lease allowance, that it's not unusual to see them be lower. It's not a hard number requirement. However, obviously, if we were to grow enrollment, which is already a high priority to do, the percentage of the building costs, the non-direct instruction expenses would go down relative to direct instructional expenses because we'd be spreading the cost of our facility over more students. And so we're okay there for now. And we talked a little bit about the plans for kind of looking at recruitment efforts and budgets, a plan for the spring so that we're covering those types of items that go into the budget before we get to the actual budget review and approval in April because it's due in May. We'll need to do our executive director's annual review early in the year, like January, so that we will be able to put her pay for the following year in the budget early and then spread the other capital items or budget items over the spring. So we give everything the attention it deserves, but we're not trying to pile it all in one meeting right before when we're going over the budget. So I don't know, Eileen, if you had anything else you wanted to add.
No, you were super thorough. I was just thinking, when do we need to distribute the executive director review paperwork? But that's obviously not exactly finance committee, so. I thought that was great.
Okay.
Okay, all right, awesome. And Marie, do you want to give the business manager report? And just remember, it's just a verbal.
Right. I don't know. Hi, good afternoon, members of the board. I don't know that I could do a better job than Deborah did. She covered everything that we discussed in the finance meeting pretty well, and I appreciate it. I do stand for any questions if anyone has any questions that they might like to ask.
I'm blinking right now as to what Kristen would normally go over.
We might cover the lease assistance bar, Marie.
Okay, right.
Yeah, just talk
So
about
that, yeah, so the most of the bars that were on there were just maintenance bars or transfer bars. We were just kind of cleaning up some of the accounts. The one new bar, which is the lease assistance bar, is well, obviously pays the lease, right? So we received money from the state to do that, and we got the award letters for that last, I believe it was Friday. We were able to get that on the agenda at last minute, and once that's approved, then we'll put that in the budget, and everything should be good. And it is very close to what we had anticipated. I think it was off by a few dollars, but nothing unusual.
Excellent. Thank you.
And then the board looked at the check register and the bank reconciliation and or the finance committee did, and everything was in order. So
Just since we have some prospective board member on the phone, can you just describe what the least assistance is?
I was worried that you were going to ask me that. No, not worried, but just so you all lease your building, right? And you apply for money from the state to pay for it, right? Basically is the bottom line. And you were awarded that funds,
Right.
those funds.
And just to give a little bit more information, it's based on certain criteria. And the main criteria is the student membership, the student count. Basically, they look at your student membership, they look at your square footage, and then they take into account how much you pay over the 12 months for your whole lease. And there's a maximum amount that you can be awarded. And it's that when we say what we are predicting our amount would be, that's where we get that number. And then after they do a full review of our lease agreement, of the square footage, our student membership, that's how they use the formula basically to calculate our actual award.
So this is the first time I've had that explanation. Thank you very much, Sammy. And
Yeah.
does that mean that as enrollment goes up, our lease assistance award and formula will result in higher and higher lease assistance payments?
There is the potential for that. And the reasoning behind that is typically the more students you have, the more space you need, right? So the bigger
Yep.
your square footage potentially can be. And so that's where that formula comes into play. But as we fill out the lease assistance applications each year, it asks for all of that information. We have to provide the LPAs, lease to purchase agreements, our student membership from our 40th day count, how much we pay over the span of a year to whoever we are paying, to the Sailor Group, I think is what the um, lease company is called. And then they take all of that into account when calculating our lease assistance. So typically, if you do have a higher student count, you are going to receive a little bit more.
Ms.
Great.
Marquez, do you know when they changed the funding formula for that? Because it used to be based solely on square footage. And I believe, isn't it just in the last couple of years that they started
It
using?
was just last year that they did change it, is my understanding. So it was a very recent change that they started taking that into consideration.
Taking what into consideration?
Enrollment.
Enrollment.
Oh,
Used to be
okay.
Based solely on
Okay.
square footage.
So have our awards gone down or just stayed the same?
I can tell you real quick. Let me pull it up.
We'd have to look at it, pull it up, since we're both kind of new to the school.
Yeah, let me see. I can
I'm
pull
not-
up our budget from the last few years.
I wasn't expecting you to have it on the top of your. Even if you hadn't been new to the school.
Right?
So
That'd be a
let's
lot of mental bandwidth if you could hold all that information over the years.
For all your
So-
individual schools.
let's see. In FY23, it was 119,000, so it was slightly higher. And then last year it was 119. So for 2 years, it was the same from what I'm seeing the last 2 years, and then it went down slightly this year. Let me see if I can look at another prior year.
Well, it's in this ballpark, so it hasn't come down. That's a good point, Lisa, but hopefully we have an opportunity to get that up because it's only a partial, it only covers part of our lease obligations each
Right.
year.
Correct. Yeah, so
Correct.
the last about 3-4 years, it stayed within about 3 to 4,000, but it has decreased that slightly.
Yeah.
From what I'm seeing.
Good. All right, so we're ready for the next item? Okay. All right. Academic performance. So Denise is missing. Are you going to give that to us, Lisa?
I am. Denise is at a semifinal championship basketball game for her daughter. And that's
Oh,
why she's
awesome.
unable to be here tonight. But
Tell her we missed her.
I will. She did share her course progress with me. That's not it. That's not it. I apologize, one moment. I stopped the share for just a second while I pull up the correct document. I can give a verbal report or I can go grab it. Are you okay if I take just a moment to get it for you?
Yeah, go grab it.
Okay, and I apologize. I did have it.
It's
pulled
the
up.
end of November. We probably have some statistics from midway through, so no worries, Lisa.
We do. There we go. All right, did that
Thank
reach
you.
there where you see the student progress now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Here's the trend line overall. Now let me get her notes on what she would like me to highlight here. We do see a bit of a drop when you look at our 6-year progress chart around this date. We do see a bit of a drop this year in the number of our students that are on track, but we actually expected that. Remember, we added in, we changed our math test format this year and are requiring paper math tests for all math classes. We're focusing on that, on improving proficiency, but that has been an adjustment for the kids and things are slowing down. So that's what we're largely attributing that slight drop to. But you can see it's still positive over these beginning years here.
I have a quick question. Is it the same test? It's just that now it's paper, right?
It's a very similar test.
Okay.
Use some of the questions from the unit test question banks, although while the problem may be the same, the numbers might have been altered, but it's the same content.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it was still, multiple choice. It was something that they typically see is just in paper, so nobody can use Google
Okay.
now.
On that, it is no longer multiple choice. So it is a different format where they're having to work out the math, which we had some initial resistance to.
Right? Yeah, partial credit, having to show your work. Yeah.
Right. But of course, it's providing a much better opportunity for the math teachers to see exactly what students might be missing, what key piece. Like you said, they can award partial credit.
Yeah.
And it's taken away the opportunity for students to do multiple guess. They
Yes.
have the same ability to retake an exam, just like they can with the Edgenuity exams. They can sit with a teacher, review their test, and then they're provided a second test that again is the same problems with the number, the actual numerical value of each problem change. It doesn't change the formulas or the format, just the numbers so that they can try it again. And so they still have that retake opportunity as well.
Okay.
It's actually, I hear from the math department, it's actually going really well. They're starting to see more engagement with the math, fewer mistakes, and less pushback as we're moving through the semester.
Okay. I feel like I was responding as a student when I was like, oh, it's not multiple choice. Like, guys, could you tell I'm in my master's, right? Like, multiple choice.
Well, if we keep moving on, our trend lines are holding pretty steady. This is in person. We have 72% of all in-person courses are currently on track. The remote program continues to be more successful with 80% of those courses on track. Here's the program comparison, just over the course of the semester. Of course, we started off really high that, first couple of weeks of school. And as always, we see a bit of a drop, and then it begins coming back up at this time of the school year. Thanksgiving's next week and the panic is about to set in.
Yeah.
So
I remember those days well.
the population data is holding steady. Again, this is all students, 73% are on track. Our regular education students, 71% are on track. Special education, students with disabilities and an IEP is 70% on track. Our 504 students are 65%. New students are at 64%. Native American at 71. African American at 71. Gifted at 73. Economically disadvantaged at 71. So these are all holding pretty steady. And then the ELL has a bit of a drop here at 53%. Please keep in mind that that includes only 6 students. So each one is impactful. And a number of our ELL students are also newer students.
Okay.
And we often see a lower performance in our new students that first semester as they adjust to the program. So there was nothing Ms. Dixon was concerned about here. Here are subpopulation trends. The blue bars are from August and the yellow bars here are from November. So you can see each population across. And they're largely holding pretty steady. And while the ELL is further behind than the other subpopulation groups, you can see that they made quite a jump from this time last month.
Yep.
We've also begun examining by subject matter, and I believe she's presented this to you before as well. This is the percent of each subject that is behind. So of all the social studies classes, 28% of those classes are currently behind. 35% of the science classes, 40% of the English classes, and 33% of the math classes. And we do see a drop in all of these over last month when she pulled the same data. So they're beginning to pull those classes up and be on track. More of them are becoming on track for credit. And this is the percent of, if you take all of the courses that are behind, how many of those are which subject? And it's more even than we've seen over the last couple of years, which is positive.
What did it used to be?
Well, we've had the English classes significantly at a significantly higher portion, like up at 36% of the spread. So that's why we instituted some of the things like that twice a week in-person 9th grade English class.
Excellent. Yeah, great idea. I mean, you know, when you're struggling in English, you're struggling in all the things.
Yes, it makes it much harder to do science, social studies, even math.
Yeah.
Are there any questions about Ms. Dixon's data? Okay.
Nope.
Are you ready to move on to your agenda?
Yeah. Yep, your updates, that would be great.
Okay.
Your report.
All right. First of all, I'd like to tell you about enrollment. Last month at our meeting, enrollment was at 143. Our 40-day count was 144. Today we're at 145. We are continuing to do tours. As I've told you, we've implemented tour cards, and we're following up with families that come in for a tour that do not enroll. We're seeing positive trends there. We're still seeing more tours. We do have one student that has already confirmed enrollment, but not until next semester. And we have a number of others that have indicated that they would like to enroll, but they haven't completed the paperwork for it yet.
Lisa, can I interrupt you a second? So on the charts, it said 139 for all students, but you're saying it's 144?
Some of them do not have, the chart I showed you is Edgenuity classes. And some of our seniors especially don't have Edgenuity classes.
All right.
And they're solely at CNM, and that's why there's a difference in the numbers.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure. So anyway, what we are seeing is, again, the enrollment is at least holding fairly steady over what it was last year. We're not seeing further declines. And we're battling that. I know I've got one confirmed next semester. We certainly expect to receive several more. We traditionally do in January. However, we do expect to lose a few as well. I've got one that I know is moving to Japan in January. And I've talked to a couple of other families that are finding that perhaps the style of learning is not the best fit for them. So right now we're hoping that the new enrollment in January covers those that might be choosing differently in January. So that's for enrollment. For recruitment, we spent a little bit of time in the finance committee meeting talking about recruitment. I've attended recently a Grow Enrollment Summit, which was targeted at charter schools. It was nationwide. The strategies that they shared there indicate that what we have been doing is actually pretty strong. I have a customized meeting with them to focus on our particular situation scheduled the first week of December. We'll see what else we might be able to do there. Additionally, I K-12 has recently partnered with Vertex Education, and Miss Runyon was able to connect me with them. I spent a couple of meetings with them to review our enrollment situation and our recruitment goals. They have provided a proposal, and I actually heard the same thing from Vertex as they asked me what kinds of strategies the school has been using, and I shared that with them. Yeah, those are all things that we'd recommend for you to do. So we're certainly, it looks like we're doing the right things. We just need to see what else we can do to get those numbers up. An interesting thing is when I was telling them about the rebranding, the gentleman asked me, he said, well, when did you launch? And I said, in May. And he's like, oh, it takes a little bit of time to build that interest, which was a little bit encouraging. But I know I share the board's concern that we need to get that number up. I've also met with Nikki Walwork, and we have some meetings planned to look at how we might be able to adjust our current engagement to provide some more support with marketing services. And again, looking at increasing it. Any questions about recruitment?
I think Eileen and I expressed an interest in attending at least the McKee meeting, but we wanted to make it, open it up if other board members wanted to do that. I was stressing in the finance committee that it's not just the potential dollars that we might be able to spend to increase enrollment, but really digging deep in terms of probability of success. In other words, Lisa got some good indicators of how much money you should spend to attract per students based on average. It'll be good to hear where they came up with those numbers, but it would also be good to talk to McKee about what they think is achievable with what we're planning to do. If we have target enrollment numbers, what they would recommend and that sort of thing, so that we really get serious about putting into a plan in place that we think will get enrollment up, because as we all know, COVID and a number of other factors caused our enrollment to go down, and a lot of schools are struggling with increasing enrollment, but we are currently dipping into our sizable cash cushion to cover operating expenses at the current enrollment level. And we've kind of targeted, instead of 145, to be at least 180 for the secondary school. So we can't keep burning our cash cushion to cover operating shortfalls. And so we really want to be diligent about getting serious in our planning for recruitment and what that means in terms of budgetary impact, etc. So that's what we discussed. I don't know if Deborah, you would like to be at least invited to those other meetings, or if you want to wait and hear what our summary takeaway is.
No, I'd certainly be interested in knowing when they're meeting, and seeing if I could do it. I'd love to go if I am able to. I feel like we all recognize how serious the enrollment issue is. And it seems like, I don't know, it seems like we keep hovering at this number without much movement, even with I know that Lisa just said that the expectation of increased enrollment right away is unrealistic, but I know you're mentioning getting serious, and I'm a little unclear about how be more serious, I mean,
so this is, and let me be clear, this is, I think Lisa has done an amazing job of taking over as executive director of the school, implementing the branding changes as well as the rechartering, and doing all the things, which she has just heard from the experts. We're doing all the things we're supposed to be doing. So this isn't a reflection on Lisa at all. However, we haven't, you know, we need to see some significant movement upward, because there's even a year delay between when we get the increased enrollment and actually get the money, or at least half a year delay before we get paid for those additional students. So one of the things that I was mentioning to Lisa is there are a lot of charter schools in this city. I happen to be aware, just by being around and about, a lot of them are outgrowing their facility, and there aren't a lot of options for them. And while it would be, you know, a big deal, you know, potentially looking at combining with another secondary charter school that needs a facility in such a way where, you know, the culture, the focus, you know, everything that we're about is very similar and complementary to, in effect, potentially double the size of the student enrollment, and if necessary, let Renaissance know that they're going to need to look for a new building because we're going to be combining with another school. I think we need to put all the options on the table. I don't know if there are schools that are the right size that would love, our campus in our location is a really desirable location, I think. And or, you know, if some of the schools around us, like Sunset Mesa, and I forget all the schools that are there along Mesa.
Eastern Hills, yeah.
Yeah, if it isn't worth a call to them to see how things are going, are they working out well? Because sometimes I know some of the church schools or private schools, you know, I know of some schools who have spun out their church elementary or other schools, or closed them. I don't know if there's a way to build some sort of rapport with those schools, or just, you know, some sort of strategic, you'd call it a merger, you know, where you acquire a bunch of students through, you know, kind of a strategic combination as opposed to just growing organically. Because I'm not sure this city can, I don't know. I don't know if we've reached the absorption point in too many charter schools, and maybe combining would be the best way to do it. So I think it's time to throw all sorts of ideas on the table, whatever those might be.
I agree. I wasn't suggesting that you were being critical of Lisa. I'm saying that you know, collectively we've been talking about this, and Lisa's done all of those things, but it doesn't seem to move the needle. I apologize if it came across as critical.
Oh no, it didn't at all. I just wanted, from a point of clarification, I think we are all in agreement. Lisa's doing a great job, and that we just need to maybe, as a board, broaden our thoughts to more.
So I noticed that in the newspaper within the last week, there was the article about the top performing schools. And a lot of those were charter schools, of course. And like Explore was on there, and School of Excellence. And I was, you know, I was thinking, we're not on that list, you know, we need to be on that list. Because that kind of stuff attracts students and families to the school. And, you know, I know that the school's working towards that, of course, but I was thinking how unfortunate it is that we don't get that publicity, or that, and I was discussing work with somebody else about like a school thing, but not charter schools, about AP schools. And we were talking about how, you know, there needs to be that critical mass. And we were talking about how some schools and APS take in a wide demographic, and others are much smaller and more homogeneous populations. But we were talking about how critical it is to have this critical mass of students or whatever it is to keep the energy level of the school moving forward, you know, and it seems like below that and without something like a premier program or achievement of the school, you know, without that and without the critical mass, energy kind of leaves the school. And I don't know. I was thinking, what is it about the school that's like the critical thing that drives it forward, the energy of the school? Or is it, I don't know. I know the certification programs and all of that, and the science thing is a group that Denise is working with, is doing really well, but I don't know if we publicize that enough, or if that's enough of a draw for people. I'm not being very clear. It just feels like with such a small student body, and I wonder if we're just under that critical number, you know, to have the energy to draw more students in. Does that make sense?
So I think,
Sure.
oh,
Am I allowed to like make suggestions in this? Or is this not the time for suggestions?
I think you would have to be, I guess you are a member of the public. I don't know the rules on that. Do you guys?
I think that.
I can be quiet. I'm just asking.
Well, so,
I mean, keep your suggestion. We want to know. We're just trying to obey the rules of the meeting also.
yeah.
Then I'll just
we-
hold off.
Yeah. We had the public comment period early in the agenda.
Yeah.
And I think it's early so that the board can respond to anything that might have been said during the course of different subjects, but thank you for having thoughts.
Right. Write them down, please. We don't want to miss out on them. So I think what I'm hearing, and I pretty much agree with, is that you know, we've focused on this a lot over the last year or two. I guess 2 years is as long as I've been on, and I think you guys were already working on it when I joined. But I think if I'm understanding, Deborah, that what you're thinking is that maybe it's time for us to make a list of serious considerations, like what do we need to do if we need to use some drastic efforts, you know? And so, yes, we have been serious about it. You know, it's just maybe it's time to get more serious about it, I think. Because I was thinking when you said it's time for us to get serious, I was like, oh, well, we have been. And then when you brought up something that we hadn't already considered, that made me really think, okay, it's a different level of seriousness.
Well, I'm thinking of more other strategic options that have not been discussed
Yeah.
today. It's
Yeah.
not a lack of seriousness, it's
Yeah.
considering a broader range of strategic options than what we've considered to date. And hi, Anthony, I got you down.
Welcome, Anthony.
We're talking about recruitment.
Yes.
And the need to not only follow up with what Lisa is doing with recruitment specialists and meeting with McKee, but potentially looking at other strategic options. And one of the ones that's really a mind blower is like combining with another secondary school, because we have a huge facility and there might be schools that are outgrown their facilities. There's not a lot of options, you know, just put a lot of things on the table to see if there isn't a way to effectively acquire a lot of students through a combination of schools or programs, besides everything that's already going on. So
I guess it also, I agree with that. I don't know how Lisa's feeling about that, but I mean, our operating, the way we're going, that it's not sustainable for more than a couple of years, it seems.
right, exactly.
So, I don't know. I'm wondering about also, you know, some of these schools, like you mentioned, that are growing that might need, could also work with a satellite campus in a more desirable location. So that's an option too.
I might suggest, maybe we need to reestablish a recruitment committee where we can have these more detailed discussions. Is that something the board might like to consider?
Possibly. Go ahead, Bethany.
I feel like, yeah, I mean, a recruitment committee would be good, but it really, I mean, that's only 2 of us, right? Maybe 3 of us. And I feel like I don't know, maybe we make more progress or, you know, come up with finding out how the board feels about things when we discuss it as a group.
Well, one thing we also might consider, and I'll have to check on the rules and the legality of it, but we can also schedule a governing board work session that might not have to be recorded and posted for
Right.
public view, where we could really brainstorm and throw out more ideas. It's something.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah. Yeah, look into that, if
Okay.
you would, please.
And
And then Marie and Sammy don't have to sit around through our pontification as well.
yeah, and I apologize if we should have let you go, but Marie and Sammy, you guys work with
Nope.
a lot of different schools, many of which are growing. Many of which have had successful recruiting programs coming out of COVID, or actually during COVID. If you could talk internally at K-12 about what our discussions are and see if any of your schools or clients, or if there's any ideas that you've seen that are working really well at other client schools, we would love to get the benefit of your input on this.
Yeah, absolutely. We can discuss with other business managers what they've seen that works, you know, well right now, specifically with the schools that I work with. A lot of it is word of mouth from what I've seen. A lot of students, you know, sharing their experiences, things like that. But that's not always the most reliable form, right? Because you don't know if students will actually do that or not consistently. But we do have a few clients I know that have grown pretty significantly in the last few years. So I can talk to their business managers and see if they can share kind of what they've seen that's worked really.
Great.
Absolutely. We'll help you in any way we can and be there to support in any way.
Yeah.
Great.
And I think you guys are still on because we're having the training after, right? So,
Oh,
yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I feel like we've covered recruitment pretty well. So
Yes.
I'm gonna move on. New Mexico Vistas, was made public last week on, I think the 12th. I know last month I had promised you a graph of those SAT numbers that I reported. And I held off because I was wanting these state scores, but I'm able to share that with you tonight. First of all, is that I'm disappointed to report that Northpoint will retain the CSI grad designation. And it's extraordinarily frustrating because the score that we would need to exit designation, we missed it by less than half of a percentage point.
So would you please explain what the CSI designation is?
Yes, CSI is comprehensive support and improvement. And any school that any high school that maintains a graduation rate below 66.67% for 2 out of 3 years receives a CSI designation. And as we discussed, CSI grad rate designation, which is different from an overall performance designation. Our performance scores do not put us in status, only the graduation rate does.
On
but-
on the other hand, it means that we still get support, which, you know, if we're below the cutoff, then we need, right? So,
Yeah, and
we
for
do.
and for Elisa's benefit, what's counted in that number is students that come and leave the school. It's not really a reflection of students who come and stay at the school.
yeah.
We get dinged if students come, they're here, then they go to another school, and then they don't graduate, right?
That's correct. And the state uses a shared accountability unit model for graduation points. And so a student's 4 years in high school in New Mexico are tracked, and each school they attend gets a piece of their ultimate graduation outcome. So if a student comes to us 2 years behind and graduates late, we own a piece of that late graduation, even though they came to us behind and did well here. If
Yeah.
they did well here and went elsewhere and ended up dropping out, we own that negative outcome as well because we had them for part of the time. And of course, the reverse is true. If they did well other places and then came here and did poorly or decided to drop out, we still own those as well. So it's a complicated model. I'd like to remind the board that we are working on the proper validation, and I've teased you with the graduation rate for months now because the embargo wasn't released, but our 23, because you run a year behind. So our 23 graduation rate was 71.9%, which went up significantly. Now it's still a bit below the state, and if I can, I'm going to skip ahead here. Since we're talking about the graduation rate, I rounded up, it was 71.9. So our current graduation, 4-year graduation rate is 72%. And the state for the same year was 77%. But we're making gains. We're getting much better. The 5-year rate and the 6-year rate are continuing to lag behind because of that history of non-validation, because we only addressed the one rate. We corrected last year only the 22 rate. And so for 23, they take everybody that graduated in 22 on time, plus any additional students that graduated as a 5th-year graduate in 23. So it went from 60% up to 66%. You do not see that happening here in the 6-year rate because we didn't fix data further back than that. But as the years go forward, we will see these bars continue to increase with proper validation. And
So-
oh, go ahead, Deborah.
So just to make sure we're understanding this, prior to you taking over, there was a failure to validate the data that was provided to the state for vistas that led to our school being underreported on these numbers. And we were only able to correct the most recent year. And so we are struggling with incorrect reporting in these longer term averages. But even if that didn't exist, I think if I'm correct, student turnover is a killer on this. In other words, you've demonstrated over the years that the longer you have a student, the better they perform. Having people come in and leave and yet be counted against the school is always going to be a drag, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It's if they leave our school and move on to El Dorado and graduate within 4 years, that's still positive. We get the positive piece of their time with us and
Okay.
their positive outcome rate. Does that help clarify?
Sure.
Yeah, if they disenroll and get a GED, even if they got, you know, the equivalent of a high school diploma, that it still counts against us.
Yes, it
Is
does.
what I think you've said in the past. Yeah.
Yes, it does. So no matter what a student's graduation outcome is, their 4-year graduation outcome, whether it's positive or negative, we own whatever piece of time they spent with our school. And we do see a much higher rate. Ms. Dixon I don't have the report handy, but Ms. Dixon reported last time, I believe, that students that are with us for 4 years, this year we have a 94% rate of those that are on track to graduate that have been with us all 4 years. So to your point,
That's the kind of thing I'd like to put on Facebook as well, or, you know, I mean, yeah.
So yes, the longer a student is with us, the better their graduation outcome, definitely.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the school will maintain that CSI designation. I would expect it to come off next year as we do our proper data validation that begins in December for 2024. And then we'll see those numbers continue to come up. For the
Thank you for
SAT,
being so diligent in checking the numbers, Lisa.
well, you're welcome.
I mean,
it's frustrating to me.
yeah.
But so all we can do is work on doing it correctly going forward. So
Right.
I can't change what happened, but we can fix it going forward, and that's what we're working to do.
Okay.
So I did share last time our SAT scores for the the spring of 24. And now I have the fancy graph that includes the state scores as well. For reading in the spring of 24, we're the blue and the state is the orange. So our reading scores overall were 41% proficient and the state's overall was 39%. In math, we were 11% proficient and the state overall was 23%. The year before, in 22-23, our school was at 29% proficient in reading and the state was at 38%. And in math, we were at 10% and the state was at 24%. So you can see that we went up significantly in reading from the prior year, from 29 to 41. And we had just a tiny gain in math. Now, one very interesting statistic I'd like to share with you is that this is the state overall proficiency score. And when the state calculates their proficiency scores, they use grades 3 through 8 and grade 11, which are all the tested grades, okay? When you look at our numbers, this is directly from College Board for the SAT test. And I just pulled this report right from College Board. You can see here our overall score as the school was 880 and the state public schools overall score was 864. And if you included all schools in the state, including private schools, it's at 870. So this is comparing only 11th grade because only 11th graders take this test. And you can see here, it says 11th grade up here at the top. So as you break that down into reading, our school score for reading was 463. The state score was, I'll give you the bottom one that includes private schools, is 448. So our students are actually outperforming other 11th graders in reading, even though that state proficiency score looks much closer. Are you following me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In math, we're underperforming. We're at 416 and the overall state score is at 422. But
it's still not half like it showed on the previous chart. So
right, the disparity is not nearly as large when you remember that state score includes grades 3 through 8, and this is a direct comparison of 11th grade to 11th grade. So we're still compared to that state score. That's what's public, that's what's on Vistas, but I wanted you to know the difference here.
So Lisa,
and now that we're practicing in-person math tests, you know, that might change. It might go up even more, even compared to the range of grades.
Well, that's certainly our hope and a reason that we implemented that.
Yeah.
Deborah?
Okay.
So this is great data, and I would ask if there is a way, because Denise Dixon was around and at the school back in 2016, to take the accurate apples to apples, which is 11th grade to 11th grade data, and put it into some sort of brochure for students. Because one of the reasons our son came to this school is there was a brochure in the spring of 2016, And it not only showed, you know, relative to Albuquerque and the state's performance, but it also showed improvement. There was a marginally better performance in 9th grade, a greater margin in 10th, and on and on and on. In other words, the students at the school grew their distance above the average over time. And we may not quite have the ability to do that same for sure. I've brought this brochure up at least once a year for 5 years, and nobody says anything. But
That's actually, this data would be great for that, as well as the length of time that your child stays with the school. That would be great in
I
the
would
brochure as
really
well.
like to
Yeah.
see something that you can put in parents' hands. You don't say, oh, go look over, you know, that actually is taken from this data so it's accurate, and we can footnote where they can find it to validate it. But we need something to put in parents' hands when they come for the tour. That was the #1 reason we enrolled Sean in this school in 2016. And we're missing an opportunity by not having something similar, even if it's not quite as, you know, impressive as it was back in 2016. You know, we need to be putting something with real data in their hands to compare.
Maybe for tours too, yeah.
Exactly,
Yes,
exactly.
absolutely. We hand them a tour packet already, and this would be a great thing to include.
Yeah.
We can certainly include what's here, but let me do some digging and see how far back we have data for. I know the state transitioned from the MESA to the SAT just a few years ago. We want to make sure we're showing apples to apples. So let me do some digging and see what all we can put together.
Well, in this
Putting the
was,
grad rates is a really good idea.
but it wasn't historical. It was a picture of the current student body or as of the last year or whatever. You know, it was current data.
Okay, I remember the graph you're talking about. The one I remembered had a couple of years trend, but we can absolutely put this one together. Okay.
Okay.
Do
All
we
right,
have to note when Anthony left the meeting and came back?
I think
Just
he
curious.
just dropped and rejoined.
Yeah, so it was really quick. Okay, all right. Welcome back, Anthony.
Yeah,
And
sorry.
then,
I'm on my phone and it gets hot and so it starts dropping off.
Okay, yeah.
this is that same, the graph I've already shared this data with you, but this is the graph that I now have access to the state scores. This is the same thing. When they consider state proficiency, they include grades 5 and 8. And then of course, we only test grade 11 in high school. We're still well above the state average, but we did see a drop from the prior year from 55% down to 49% in 2020. And then we've already discussed that graduation.
So
Any
the PEC commissioner who thought we should quit doing so well in science will be happy.
hopefully.
Deborah.
She actually said that. She actually said that.
Yes, he did say that. Couple other quick things for school business. A DEO update. I met again with McKee. We're continuing to see search rankings improvement. For STEM in high school, that keyword search, we weren't ranked at all in Q2, and Northpoint now holds the first position in Albuquerque for that search. Charter school went from number 19 to number 11. Online charter school went from number 23 to the 9th position. So we're continuing to see growth there as they work on SEO and adding articles to the page. And I'm learning a lot about it. They're really helpful in what they share. Also, our tech-based page, which was live before the rebranding, it just got updated. But that tech-based page, visits went up 25% over the last quarter, which is really positive. They were very pleased to see that. And the dual enrollment page also, page visits went up 20% over the previous quarter. So we're continuing to see growth and traction there. And the last piece I wanted to share is regarding our gifted program. As I've shared previously, the state expanded their definition of gifted, and we've been working on developing our gifted plan. We added that SAGE course this year, which is growing like crazy and receiving a ton of positive feedback from our students. And we
Cool.
have currently identified 11 students as potentially gifted, and they're in the process of testing to see if they would qualify for services. And as long as
Excellent.
we have any new identifications made by the 120th day, we'd be eligible for funding for that next year. So
Cool.
seeing positive traction there.
Great job, Lisa.
All right then. And that's the end of my report.
Okay, right, if there's no questions for Lisa, we can move on to the governance, academic committee report.
We haven't met, especially since Danielle left.
Yeah,
So
we need to elect a new member, right?
once we have new
Add a new member.
So Debbie, maybe as part of the new constituted academic report, maybe you could just remind us that for those of us who've been around and explain the background for those who are new, what you were discussing when you were meeting with Danielle on the committee.
Well, one thing that we have been talking about is engagement of students and connection. And doing that in terms of student tutoring and having engagement so that they feel connected into the school. And doing that in a variety of different ways. Also, the importance of getting up and moving and having these smaller windows of more intensive study interrupted with kind of movement breaks, and maybe coupling that with getting to know you activities and things in the middle of that. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, that's great.
And also doing the importance of hands-on learning, in particular with the science and math and labs and different things, and the way to and investigating different ways to incorporate that into the science curriculum. So we were just kind of getting that off the ground and gathering data and evidence and studies about how effective it is to include hands-on learning and how we could do that here.
If I could add on to that, I
Yes.
also had Ms. Parker recently presented to the staff that adolescent neuroscience training that she shared with you all in the spring. She recently presented that to the staff, and we've been going through some of the reflection questions to see how we might better incorporate some of those strategies.
Great. And Lisa, just for your benefit, sort of pre-COVID, I brought in a firm that had hands-on learning physics. Very impressive kind of curriculum with kits of hands-on learning tools that has had some really great results in some very bad schools in Denver. It not only raised science scores, but students who were in this program, all of their grades improved in all their subjects, which speaks to the student engagement piece and the benefit of hands-on learning. And I don't really know what the status is. There are other school districts around the state that use this. I can get an update to see I can't remember the name right now, but if that's something the academic committee wants to learn more about, and get sort of thinking about that or other options for that. Physics in particular was deemed to be a particularly good subject to use hands-on learning and get more engagement than just formulas and theory, you know? And it's fun. So anyway, I'd be happy to update you on that for your consideration, because it's pretty.
Yeah,
Yes,
please do.
please.
It didn't go anywhere before, but maybe this is the time.
Yeah, please send me some information on it when you remember the name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Consideration of new governing council members. We had 2 applications that Anthony and I both reviewed. Elise and Lisa, who couldn't be here tonight, Lisa Berenberg, Lisa B, who couldn't be here tonight, but did send us a short video. Did I already say that Anthony and I reviewed both applications as part of the
nominating committee.
nominating committee? Thank you. All I could think of was recruitment because we just spent so much time. The nominating committee, and I think do we nominate them for?
Well, would you like me to share Lisa's introduction video? And then
Sure.
we
And then
also have
maybe Elise
Elise.
could say something? Is that, okay.
What would you like to do first, Ms. Johnson?
Let's see Lisa's so that Elise could, maybe cover the same sort of material if she wants to.
I'm just gonna drag her video over here. I'll make her really big. Everyone can see it?
No.
No,
Oh, okay.
over the agenda, right?
Yeah, that's where I put it. Let me. Press that. I apologize. Technical difficulties.
Yes,
Can you see it now?
yes.
Hello, my name is Lisa Bamberg. I have my application in to be a member of the governing board of Northpoint Academy. I'm so sorry that I can't be there in person tonight. But I do invite you to email me or call me with any questions you may have. A little bit about myself. I have 3 kids. They're all in 10th grade. My 2 boys are at El Dorado, and my daughter Bryce is at Northpoint Academy. Lived in Albuquerque since 1997 and moved to New Mexico in 1996. I'm an engineer, and my husband is a lawyer. I think I've provided you my resume and the answers to the questions in the application. But again, if you have any other questions, please do not hesitate at all to call me or email me, and Eileen has all of my contact information. So I look forward to being a member of the board and look forward to working with all of you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Bye-bye.
Lisa did share that her flight didn't land until after 6 o'clock, so she was in the air and sorry that she was unable to join.
And I've worked with her, I guess, I've known her through work for about 5 years. So when I saw her application, I thought that was great.
Very good.
All right. Elise, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Elise Hodges. I have 4 kids now. My oldest son, he has been attending since all of my kids have been there since 9th grade, but my son started when he was 7th grade with Miss Knight. So I've been at that school for a while, and then I got married, and my 2 daughters, who I'm in the process of adopting, have gone there. Elena since 7th grade, Jasmine since 9th grade. I have seen her going from not passing 9th grade to she's now ahead and graduating this year and doing really well. I have been working at Blue Cross Blue Shield now for 11 years. I work mainly with the Medicaid population as a unit manager for clinical operations. I work with the state a lot. I work in a bunch of different roles, and depending on what day it is, might determine on what I need to do for the day. And I have a lot of hands-on with this school, I guess you could say. You can ask Miss Mora. I'm very vocal when it comes to concerns or even compliments. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Johnson, may I say something?
Yeah.
I can tell the board that both of these parents are very active and involved in their children's education. Strong advocates for the school, but as Ms. Hodges mentioned, she's not shy about sharing her feedback either way, which I appreciate.
Mhm.
So I would recommend both of them as board members.
Excellent. Well, thank you. What is the next step then? Do I ask for a nomination to?
You might ask first if since Ms. Hodges is present, do you have any questions, Ms. Hodges, for the board?
Good idea. Thank you.
No, I'm good. I've caught on.
Okay.
Okay. That's faster than I did. Good.
Much faster than I did.
Yeah.
Then Ms. Johnson, the next step would be if the board has any discussion or if they would like to make a motion to accept new governing council members.
Okay. Debbie, Deborah, since you guys, I mean, Anthony and I already reviewed the applications, do you have any questions or do you want to proceed with nominations or?
Well, I assume Eileen and Anthony reviewed the applications and recommended them to the board for
Yes.
approval. And they
I
sound great. They sound great.
Yes, they do.
So I'm on board. Debbie?
I was going to say I need to defer to you also since you reviewed the applications.
Yes.
So, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the nominating committee recommends both applicants. So.
Great.
So
Indeed.
I'll make a motion to approve both Elise Hodges and Lisa Berenberg as new governing council board members effective immediately. Yeah.
Second, this is Deborah Jensen. I'll second that motion.
Thank you. And roll call?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Vote? Okay.
Eileen Johnson,
Aye.
Anthony Padilla,
Aye.
Deborah Burns, aye. Debbie Jensen.
Aye.
Okay, motion
All
approved.
right. Welcome, Elise. I think you're
Yes.
still an observer for this meeting, right?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, she's not? She's
No.
not an
I
observer?
don't. No,
She
now you're
wasn't
I
No,
thought
I
you
remember.
had to
Okay.
do the. I thought you had to do the onboarding. Is that changed?
So a
He can't
member has voting rights as soon as they are accepted by the board. And I've already spoken with both regarding their training requirements. And then at least we have some paperwork too that I'll contact you separately about. But the rules are that they are eligible to vote as soon as they're admitted to the board.
Thank you.
Yay,
I'm
Elise.
glad you know.
Great.
K-12, can we record the training in a Zoom recording for Lisa?
I don't think it counts as their financial training, but it is helpful since it's specific to our school. So it'd probably be extra training.
Why wouldn't it count?
They
Good
changed the
project.
rules under that new board requirements, how the hours dropped this year. The only accepted training for new board members is the Canvas new member course. And so they will not accept that finance training. Lisa had intended to be present tonight, so she might appreciate the recording.
That is very unfortunate.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, even though it doesn't count, let me just say this for the benefit of Elise. I'm a finance person. I was on the board for like, I don't know, 2.5, 3 years and was really having a hard time understanding public school finance until we recruited K-12 to do a finance training. Because the PED is not training on the same topics that board members need to understand the financials. And so even if it doesn't count as your training, you might find the Zoom training very helpful for understanding school finance. That's all. That's all my 2 cents.
I agree.
Yeah, or stay,
Yeah,
or
I
stay and be
second.
present for the training. Yeah, whatever you prefer. If you have to go, we won't judge you either.
Right. But it'd be
Okay.
nice to have it as a resource for them in case they're after their first meeting, they're like, what is this? You
Yeah.
know?
Probably be doing that anyway, so.
If it could be recorded, I'd greatly appreciate it because like I said, I do have 4 kids and then
Right.
kid number 4 I didn't tell you about he's gonna be 2 in January. And so I got off just a few minutes before this meeting, and so I haven't got to have my playtime with him, and so he's been trying to like get my attention.
Yeah,
So
Yes.
yeah.
I would love to listen to this later, but if you don't mind, I would like to excuse myself so I can have that balance of everything, of juggling.
Yep, and we should be done with the regular meeting in like 2 minutes now that we have this portion done, so.
No
you can
worries, thank you.
Bring back the agenda
Sorry.
for me, thank you. Okay, and yeah, you hit on the board development, but 5 hours annually for returning members, and we got an email listing accomplished training.
Right now, congratulations to Ms. Burns. She's leading the pack. She's got
You
4
won.
hours started in the training.
We need to have
Okay.
those little charts with like the racer going ahead and
Right?
Deborah out
And
in
gold
front.
stars, yeah.
I actually don't know where I'm at. How many do I have left?
You have 1 hour remaining.
This one,
Uh,
right?
no, I think
It
you've
doesn't
already
matter.
finance.
done
I already did their finance.
Oh, okay.
I
and
missed.
I'm
missed
sorry, I
one.
can tell you too that the returning member training, if you would like to do that live at the Public Charter Schools of New Mexico Conference in December, the registration deadline for that is next week on November 26th. And I would have to get a PO in advance if you wanted to register for that trip.
No.
I can't do it.
Okay.
I-
I'd like to, but I can't.
I would
Okay.
like to, where do I need to register?
I need to get you a PO if you would like to attend.
Okay,
You know what, I wrote down the registration date. The conference is the 12th. I think the member training day is Thursday, December 12th.
okay,
You'd like to attend that?
please.
Okay, you can get all 5 hours that day, Mr. Padilla, and I will get with you separately to confirm the dates and then get a PO started for you.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to hear a synopsis after. I am moving that day, or the day after, and so it's a hectic time for me.
I have to say, I thought it was a very helpful training, but I can't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, I like it. I really like it. I think it's helpful. I like that it's a little more interactive.
Yeah.
All right, and just for the meeting purposes, a quorum will be present for the finance training after this meeting, and no school business will be discussed and no actions will be taken. All right, it is 6:21. I'll say that the next regular meeting is December 18th at 5 p.m. via Zoom, and we are adjourned.
Well, no, you guys made me a liar. I told our new members and I told Sammy that, oh, we've been running an hour. And it's been an hour and 20 minutes.
Well,
So
that's
we're
not
really
too
chatty
bad,
tonight.
It's
We
still
did have a
compared to the-
lively discussion.
Oh,
Yeah.
let me stop the recording. My apologies.
And compared to the last few years.